Listen, you're not gonna find anything on me, okay? Trust me.
Empty your pockets into the tray, sir, or we'll have to. Your pockets, sir?
Lady, the problem isn't in my pants.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and it's time for that dime of the week. It's every Sunday. We do This Week in X-Men. I bring the X-Men historian, the Marvel aficionado, Doc, on the channel. We talk about everything going on. Obviously, these are going to be Ten of Swords heavy for the next 2 months or so. Maybe it's 3 months. I can't remember. I think it goes after December, so it's probably like 2.5 months. This week, they release X-Factor number 4 from Leah Williams. This is the second chapter of Ten of Swords. They also did like a 2-minute trailer on Marvel's YouTube channel, and they talked about 9 of the sword bearers of Arakko and kind of laid out what their powers are. We're going to discuss that. Then this week, they also did a tribute to Len Wein and Cochrane's original giant-size X-Men from 1970. What's the year, Doc?
4, I think.
Is it
74?
Oh.
I think it's 74, 75. It came out around New Year's, so.
Okay. So around that time frame, obviously, that was the launch of Uncanny X-Men, the Chris Claremont dynasty. A lot of people probably don't even remember. He didn't write that issue. It was actually Len Wein that did a tribute with like 48 artists on it. We're going to get into this. I hope people aren't expecting a lot of happiness in this. We got a lot of critical things. There are some things we like. There's a lot of things we're not exactly fond of this week, Doc. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's far from the best week.
Hopefully next week will be better. I think we got X-Force, we got Wolverine in there. I think Marauders as well. So hopefully next week's Ten of Swords chapters will be much more exciting than this one from X-Factor. But we'll get into the details here in a second. I do want to say, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. Give us a thumbs up if you like this content. Give us a thumbs down if you don't. Either way, we definitely want to hear your feedback in the comments section. What did you think of This Week in X-Men? Were you a fan of X-Factor? Were you a fan of the Marvel trailer? Were you a fan of the tribute to giant-size X-Men? So we're going to get into this, Doc. And the best thing, without a shadow of a doubt, in X-Factor number 4 is the art. And this page right here of basically Apocalypse's mind is being probed by Rachel. And this is kind of how he sees everything. This is actually pretty dope.
Yeah, the art in this issue is excellent. I love it. It's by far the most redeeming part of this. This kind of reminds me of like those Brett Booth Bloodshot issues where if you just write your own dialogue, the comic gets infinitely better because the art in this is dope. It's great. It's typical, kind of exactly what you want in an X-Men comic. This page in particular is great. It's kind of like the representation of how, Rachel's probing Apocalypse's mind, but this is kind of how, she's not really probing it. She's kind of trying to stop him from killing the healer. Yeah. And this is kind of the way that her mental attack is kind of represented to him in his mind, the same way, that same kind of betrayal.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it really is. And this page is so much better than every other page in this comic that it's not even funny.
So let's get into some of the issues. And this comic has a lot of issues. It has one main purpose, which we'll get to after this page right here. Well, actually 2 main purposes, I guess. But there isn't enough story to fill out X-Factor number 4. Leah Williams is not a seasoned or talented comic book writer. She doesn't know how to powder or do, she doesn't know how to fill out a comic book if she doesn't have enough story. So you end up with just random characters having the same argument over and over and over, which is really disappointing. But this is kind of the beginning of the comic book. And we have Apocalypse. Obviously, he was betrayed by his original 4 horsemen. Richter was also shot by a poisoned arrow. And Apocalypse is lying down and he's like reaching his hand out. He's like, hold my hand, like E.T. and Elliot. And I felt embarrassed for Apocalypse.
Yes, this is something that Apocalypse under no circumstances would ever do. The last thing he wants is to touch his little Elliot. No, he's not.
I'll be right here.
Yes. I mean, that's not Apocalypse. Come on, man. The guy is way too much of a badass. I mean, I get that there's like some weird thing going on with Apocalypse and Richter, and I don't understand what that is. And it's probably
He wanted to touch tips, man.
Yeah, but this just made no damn sense. This is so out of character for Apocalypse. This is not who he is. This is not Apocalypse. He'd be sitting there like saying, "Come on, virus, kill me," and look at you, you giant insert expletive here at Richter. He'd be basically shit talking Richter because you're dying. You
so out of character. It was it just threw me off as soon as I opened the comic book. I was like, what is this horse shit?
Yeah,
it's horse shit is what it is. I knew it right away. My instincts told me that.
It really is. And this is another chance. This page, there's a couple other pages that are examples of how this comic just entirely ignores all of the things that they already started putting together, like the rules that they started putting together in X-Men X of Swords creation, last week. That whole like poison virus arrow thing that's supposed to infect them, it's also supposed to infect everybody that touches them. And hey, look, Beast is holding on to Apocalypse right there. On one of the other pages, Siren's carrying Richter. Okay, so does that virus not actually work?
There's a lot of issues with as far as continuity. Let's get into the big one.
Yeah.
Now, the whole point, or the vast majority of the point of X-Factor number 4 is to create stakes within the Dawn of X franchise for Ten of Swords. Of course, we know if you kill an X-Man, if you kill a mutant, you just resurrect them.
Yeah.
It's no big deal. Unless you kill them and they can't confirm that they're actually dead, then they can't resurrect them. That's part of the protocol. That's really the only way that you could create stakes. So what they've done is Rockslide, when they resurrect him, because they resurrected him from Otherworld, because that's where he was killed. Richter gets resurrected fine because he was killed. He actually died on Krakoa, but Rockslide died in Otherworld, and because they resurrected him, basically Professor X tries to download whatever was left of his conscience that they didn't already have to re-upload it, and it ends up being a bad upload because it's just like a random version of Rockslide from another universe or something like this. And they're like, oh my God, if you die in Otherworld, the real you is, for all intents and purposes, lost. If you die in this combat, you're gone. Here's the problem, Doc. It was expressly stated multiple times that Charles Xavier has uploaded previous versions of his own mind using the Cerebrum. You don't need a fresh upload. He's done it 5 times on himself already. You don't need the newest version of Rockslide. You can just go resurrect Rockslide and be like, hey, sorry, buddy, you're going to forget about the last 3 weeks of your life because there's a corrupted version. We can't give you you're just going to have to deal with it.
Yeah.
It's stupid. There's no stakes. So that's bullshit.
Yeah, these aren't actual stakes because, as you pointed out, they can just always go and upload.
They have backups of everybody.
Yeah, they have multiple copies of the backups, so all you have to do is restore to a last known good.
And we know that they do these every month. That's part of the white pages on Charles Xavier. Every month he does a fresh upload on every single mutant.
And honestly, since there's only 10 of them going into Otherworld, he can do a
get fresh.
He can get a fresh right before they walk through the gate in the Otherworld. He can be like, all right, so y'all are going in. You won't remember what happened when you got there after here, but at least it's a good known version. What the hell? These aren't actual stakes. And
they're not paying attention to their own closely guarded continuity. And they're always talking about the Dawn of X team. We're on a Slack together. We have multiple meetings every week, so the continuity is good, and we're always talking to each other. Apparently, you're not, because you already forgot a bunch of shit that you put yourselves in motion.
Yeah, exactly. I'm leaning much more towards it doesn't matter how many people are keeping track of things if all of them are fucking idiots.
Perhaps.
And Jonathan Hickman, you read your own press and you believed it. You're not that smart. Stop.
Well, that's the stuff out of Jonathan Hickman's own comic books. Like, he's the head of X. He should be like, yeah, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
Just sit there. Just say if they die in another world, they can't bring the body back and confirm they're dead.
Yeah, or say
sending anyone in to confirm that they're dead.
Yeah, exactly. Or something along the lines of, I don't know, come up with something, but you can do better than this crap. Because it's
an interesting idea that a corrupted version would come back, but unfortunately, they already have the workaround that they created within their own continuity.
Yeah, exactly. And if they, if they were getting real-time uploads and updates, like it was, a friggin' time machine backup, then, okay, problem. But you're only doing, you're just
turn it off.
Yeah, just turn off the updates. It's not that hard for these 10 mutants.
Now, the reason this is an X-Factor issue is because Polaris is kind of like the main character in here, and she's like losing her mind, and she has some of the worst inner monologue I've ever seen in my life. It's actually embarrassing. Leah Williams embarrasses herself enough every time that she writes an X-Men comic book, so I'm not going to go too far into that. But there's a part where they bring Rockslide and he falls apart and she's losing her mind and she's running off with pieces of Rockslide. And you're like, what the hell is wrong with this person? And then apparently she has taken his body to this and she's connected with Saturnine. And supposedly, it was because they were using geomagnetic coordinates or something, just complete bullshit and stupid that didn't make any sense whatsoever. She created this game board where the 10 sword bearers of Krakoa will bring their blades and stand on the mat and take their place. And once they're all there, they can go into the arena combat and fight for their contest of champions. The first one, by the end of it, ends up being Magic. Obviously, we know Cable has one already as well.
The Gorgon has two. There was this whole weird, dumb, not really poetry, kind of speaking in riddles type thing, where all of them were super easy to figure out. Yeah. And they listed them all, so we already know who they are. We just don't know which sword.
They just have to go get their swords.
Yeah, they have to go get their swords. And then additionally, okay, so she made this thing, this mat thing body, out of all of Rockslide's rocks. How did she break all of these rocks? Because they were pretty giant boulders.
Yeah, she would have had to slice them into little things, and it's probably a different base because there wasn't enough rock slide to go around.
Yeah, did she have a rock crusher on to make
Well, you wouldn't want to crush her. You'd want to be able to cut it into slices and stuff, so you could actually make the pieces.
Well, no, but you just do it with enough pebbles, like the decomposed granite or gravel, like you would if you're making a nice little outdoor patio. Yeah, so she made a fancy outdoor patio with her friend.
But
good job.
Needless to say, I'm not recommending X-Factor number 4. I'll give this is like a 2.5 star comic book. Easily the best X-Men comic Leah Williams has ever written in her life.
But I'm pretty sure
I'll give her Jonathan.
That. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure she had Jonathan Hickman staring over her shoulder, and even he couldn't stop her from screwing up too much.
Well, and he had a part to do with it. What they were wanting her to execute was impossible because they've already introduced a fix action. Not their fault. But it's not a good comic either way.
No, don't read this.
So we'll get into the Marvel trailer about the Sword Bearers of Arakko. Obviously, we're getting some information about their powers. Solemn adamantium skin. You can see why that is the new nemesis for Wolverine. We'll just say that's the other side of the equation. Here on the white sword, it says he's an ancient Akaran healer. Obviously, the character on Krakoa's side that would kind of have the same power would be healer. But if you look at that sword, eerily reminiscent of the blade that Cable is walking around with now. We look at
Also-
Pog. We look at his sword. Does that look like anybody's sword, Doc?
That looks like Apocalypse's sword.
Looks like Apocalypse's sword. Then we've got Iska the Unbeaten, Curse to Win. Very reminiscent of Domino, correct?
Kind of, yeah. She got a Domino vibe to her.
Mm-hmm. Because Domino's is got good luck. She's always cursed to win. She can't be on the losing side, kind of thing. I don't know. Are you interested in any of these? Does this get you excited?
I'm confused how he has adamantium skin.
Doesn't make sense, does it?
And I kind of love the only thing that I actually really like about this is that Pog your Pog, his description is Pog your Pog.
Yeah.
His description is I'm just me.
The only thing you get about it is
cool.
the sword.
that's kind of cool.
So those are sword bearers 1, 2, 3, and 4. There is a 5th one that they introduced, and that is actually Summoner, but we've already seen that character, and I didn't want to put one in the middle and cover everything up. So that would be sword bearer number 7. I apologize, I didn't get a picture of him. And the next one would be Red Root the Forest. Looks like he's associated with Krakoa himself.
Oh yeah, it definitely looks
Field of Decay.
Yeah, it looks like kind of Krakoa's opposite.
Well, I imagine Red Root the Forest is the character that's red sitting on Krakoa there. I think that's almost a spoiler that they're going to make it to Krakoa, don't you?
You know what? That is a good point. Yeah, now that you mention it, I think you're probably right.
All right, we get to Bay the Blood Moon, the Silent Commander. I don't know. Is that supposed to be like the Inhuman
Cyclops.
Dude or something? Cyclops, you think? Well, I
Yeah,
guess he's a commander.
He's a commander. His sword is red. You know, that's my vibe.
Okay. Then the next one is War the Sentient Flame. Obviously, I would think that was the opposite of Iceman.
Yeah, that would be my vibe too. That's kind of the feeling I'm getting.
And then Death has the Death Stare. Obviously, that's reminiscent of Ghost Rider with like the Pendant Stare. What does that relate to any mutants to you?
Well, you know what? Maybe that's the Cyclops.
Maybe
because the Death Stare, the eyes. In which case, Bay the Blood Moon. I don't know.
They don't identify the 10th sword bearer, but I'm almost certain it's Annihilation that we're going to find out is actually Genesis, the wife of Apocalypse.
Yeah, I mean, we've already kind of covered that previously, but yeah, well, I mean, they did have Annihilation in that little video, but it just had everything redacted.
Okay, yeah. So there you go, folks. So we have a little bit of information as far as the sword bearers of Arakko. You can kind of see who they're maybe going to be squaring off with, kind of their opposites or whatnot. I don't know. Maybe Bay the Blood Moon's going to fight Nightcrawler.
No. Bay the Blood Moon would be possibly. Oh, you know what? It's going to be the opposite for the Gorgon.
Oh, okay. Because we know Gorgon's going to be there as well.
Yeah, exactly. And Gorgon has 2 swords.
There you go. So I don't know. I find these interesting. I'm glad they kind of put it out there. Not extremely exciting, but it gives us a little bit of information about the characters because they are so unfamiliar.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to make me care about any of these characters when they're holding them off from really showing up, but at the same time, they want me to care and have stakes when they do show up, and I don't know shit about them. Mm-hmm. So they keep trying to kind of trickle information out, but they're doing it in a way that doesn't actually tell us anything.
Pretty much. So let's get into this giant size X-Men tribute comic. I was actually kind of jazzed about this one, and I don't think they executed it to its fullest potential, but now that I think about it, it might just be a bad idea. But I think they did the cover justice.
They did. I dig the cover.
Yeah, the cover is actually pretty dope. I think they did a great job on this. And there are some really cool pages. Here on the left, I believe that is Alex Ross. Here in the middle, we got a page by Mark Brooks. Here on the right is Marco Cicchetto. Yeah. So there's some really cool stuff to look at in this comic book.
Yeah, Mark Brooks did a phenomenal job on, and the only thing he really changed in that original, kind of splash page was making Colossus armored instead of skin. Everything else, he did a lot of, he did a great job homaging Dave Cockrum on this. And same with that Alex Ross page. Phenomenal painting. I cannot stress enough. There was a lot of really, really good art in this.
Yeah.
There was a couple of pages that didn't really make sense.
Yeah, like on the left, here's what I think is the coolest page of art. That's John Proudstar.
Correct.
And then the next page, it's a continuation of the story, is this thing in the middle, this abomination. And that's kind of where the comic book falls flat. I think they probably should have picked like 5 or 6 artists, like maybe one to do the Nightcrawler story, intro story, one to do the Wolverine intro story. You know what I'm saying?
You know what? I can even get behind the idea that they did go with where everybody kind of got their own page, but they needed to be a little more discerning in which, if there's a multi-page scene, the art styles. And because it's going from that first page to that X-Men, animated style page next is just so horribly jarring. And it's good art. I mean, it looks nice, but when you've just finished reading that other page, I'm not even sure who the artist was on.
I think it's Juan Cabral.
Oh, okay, maybe.
I think it is. I might have that one wrong.
Yeah,
it was really hard to identify the artist because they didn't put page numbers on here, but they identified the artist by page number.
Yeah, they dropped the ball on that because now you can't. You got to physically go back and count each individual page to figure out which page you're on, so you can check the index in the front to find out what artist it is you're looking at. And that was poor planning, but it's the Legion of Doofuses. What do you expect?
Yeah, then this last page on the right, I thought was kind of weird. Is like, I guess Iceman was always gay.
Apparently so. He's very.
Look at his stance.
Yeah, he's between the stance and the soy mouth. Yeah, and you know what? And this page is okay by itself if you took out all the dialogue, but when you're looking at it and you're reading the dialogue, and they're like, "Oh my God, behind us!" but they're all facing forward towards the threat. Can you just not draw people from behind? Or did you not read the script whenever you saw what pages you were getting? Like, did you not look at the original? I mean, guys, come on! You can go buy a copy of the facsimile edition for $5. It's the original copy. I understand Giant Size X-Men is a pricey book these days, but go buy the facsimile for $5, and then
it's $1 cheaper than this. And I think that's probably where it kind of falls apart. Now, this is fine. I actually enjoyed it when the art hit. I was like, "That's dope. That's a real tribute." When it didn't hit, I was like, "That's a little bit disappointing." But it's a $6 comic book. You can get the facsimile edition for $5 with the original art. You can also go on a Comixology if you have an account, and you can read it for free.
And and you know what? As much as they said that this was a tribute, they also admitted, like, if you read the interviews at the back with Len Wein's wife and Dave Cockrum's wife and Chris Claremont, they did change dialogue in this.
Yes, they
did to make it for modern sensibilities, and I use finger quotes for that. So they changed it because they didn't want to offend people. Okay. Come on, guys! If you're doing a tribute, like, and this is the thing that I never quite understood about this.
Doc, we're running out of time.
I know, but the one thing I didn't quite understand about this is you're doing a tribute and you're tributing Dave Cockrum by removing all of Dave Cockrum's art. You could have at least left his cover, man. I mean, you could have left something in there that was by Dave Cockrum, and they didn't. And I think that's disappointing. It's like a bunch of cover bands that don't really.
I think it's cool. If you love that comic book, that's your favorite comic ever, you should probably buy this. Like it's dope. But if you've never read it, just go read the original.
Go read the facsimile. Absolutely. You get the original, all of the original script, the original art. Dave Cockrum's art in it was fantastic. Len Wein's script was fantastic. This, there was no real loss in changing it, but it was, it's not quite as good.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff about it. It's a neat novelty, but certainly not a must read. All right, Doc, that wraps us up. We went a little long today, talking about X-Factor, talking a little bit about the new Sword Bearers of Arakko, and obviously this tribute to Len Wein and Dave Cockrum. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see y'all later.
Thank you.